Single mom takes son to friend's wedding only to find her billionaire CEO ex, the father of her child, marrying her friend. The invitation had arrived on a Tuesday, its heavyweight cream envelope standing out amid the bills and junk mail cluttering Layla Morgan's kitchen counter. The return address bore a name she hadn't seen in years, Olivia Frost. The elegant calligraphy inside announced what Layla could scarcely believe. Her once closest friend from college was getting married at a luxurious Lake Tahoe resort, and she wanted Layla and her little one to attend. "Who's that from, Mom?" Theo asked, peering up from his cereal bowl, milk dribbling down his chin. At 8 years old, he was the perfect blend of her copper hair and freckles, but with eyes that didn't come from her side of the family, amber eyes that sometimes made her heart catch when he looked at her certain ways. "An old friend," Layla replied, wiping his chin with a napkin. "Someone I knew before you were born. She's getting married and wants us to come to her wedding." "A wedding?" Theo's face lit up. "With cake?" "Weddings usually have cake," she smiled despite the unexpected emotions swirling through her. Olivia Frost. They'd been inseparable through 4 years of design school, dreaming of the empires they would build. Then life happened. Layla got pregnant. Olivia moved overseas for a prestigious internship, and their once unbreakable bond dissolved into occasional social media likes and holiday cards. "Can we go? Please?" Theo was bouncing in his seat now, wedding cake clearly the only thing on his mind. Layla studied the invitation again. A weekend at a 5-star resort was well beyond her usual budget as a freelance interior designer, but the invitation mentioned that accommodations would be provided for out-of-town guests, and it had been so long since she'd taken a proper vacation with Theo. "Let me think about it," she said, tucking the invitation into her planner. "Now, finish your breakfast or we'll be late." Later that evening, after Theo had gone to bed, Layla poured herself a glass of wine and reopened the invitation. There was a handwritten note tucked inside that she hadn't noticed earlier. "Lay, I know it's been forever, but getting married has me feeling nostalgic for the people who knew me before I became whoever I am now. There's so much I want to catch up on. Please say you'll come. All expenses covered. Consider it an apology for being such a terrible friend these past years. The groom's insisting on handling everything. You'll see why when you meet him. Love, Liv." Layla sipped her wine thoughtfully. The Olivia she'd known had been brilliant but perpetually broke, subsisting on ramen noodles and ambition. Whoever this fiancé was, he'd clearly changed her financial circumstances dramatically. Her phone buzzed with a text. "Speak of the devil, did you get it? Please tell me you're coming. It won't be the same without you. Hugs and kisses, Liv." Layla hesitated, then typed back, "Got it today. Congratulations. Not sure if I can swing it with Theo's schedule." The response came immediately, "Bring him. We've got activities planned for kids. I've never even met your little man. Please, Lay. I miss you." A lump formed in Layla's throat. Despite the years and distance, there had been a time when Olivia knew her better than anyone. Before Benjamin. Before Theo. Before the choices that had shaped her life into what it was now. "Okay, we'll be there." 3 dancing emojis appeared in response, followed by, YESSSS. "You won't regret it. Sending all the details tomorrow. Love you." Layla set down her phone and leaned back against the couch, wondering why she felt a flutter of unease beneath her excitement. Perhaps it was just the strangeness of reconnecting with her past when she'd worked so hard to focus on her future. Or perhaps it was the thought of introducing Theo to a world she'd deliberately kept him separate from. Either way, she'd said yes, and Layla Morgan always kept her word. The next morning, as she helped Theo with his school project, a diorama of the solar system that was currently exploding glitter all over her dining table, Layla found herself studying her son's profile with fresh eyes. The determined set of his jaw as he carefully positioned Neptune. The slight furrow between his brows as he concentrated. The way he absent-mindedly pushed his glasses up his nose with one finger. All Benjamin. Mom, you're staring, Theo said without looking up from his work. It's distracting. Sorry, she smiled. Just thinking about how much you've grown. I grew a whole inch since my birthday, he informed her seriously. Dr. Powell measured me. That's impressive. Layla handed him the container of silver glitter for Saturn's rings. So, about that wedding I mentioned yesterday. How would you feel about going to Lake Tahoe for a long weekend next month? There's a beautiful lake, and mountains, and apparently activities for kids. Theo looked up, interest piqued. Can I bring my telescope? Miss Garcia says the stars look amazing from high elevations because there's less atmosphere in the way. Less atmosphere, huh? Layla grinned. I'm sure that can be arranged. And yes, of course you can bring your telescope. Cool. He went back to his project, adding thoughtfully, I've never been to a wedding before. They're fun, Layla assured him, though her own memories of weddings were limited. Her parents had eloped. Her brother had a courthouse ceremony. And she, well, she'd never made it that far with anyone. Not even with Benjamin, though there had been a moment when she'd thought they might be heading in that direction, before everything fell apart. Theo's voice pulled her from the memory. Will the man getting married be my friend after? Like an uncle or something? The innocent question caught Layla off guard. I don't know, sweetie. I haven't met him yet. I haven't even seen Olivia in years. Oh, Theo seemed to process this. But she's your friend? She was my very good friend a long time ago. Before I was born. Yes, when I lived in New York. Theo had always been curious about her life before, though she'd kept many details vague, especially anything involving his father. Did she know my dad? And there it was, the question that inevitably emerged whenever the past came up. Layla took a deep breath, choosing her words carefully, as she always did on this topic. She knew of him. They weren't friends. Theo absorbed this, adding a splash of blue paint to earth with careful precision. Do you think I'll ever meet him? My dad? Layla's heart constricted, as it always did when Theo asked about Benjamin. I don't know, sweetheart. His work takes him all over the world. Not entirely a lie. Last she'd heard, Benjamin had expanded his tech company internationally. Like a spy. Theo looked intrigued by this possibility. Layla laughed despite herself. Not exactly. More like a businessman. Very busy and important. Also not a lie. I bet I could find him, Theo said with the casual confidence of an 8-year-old who'd recently discovered the internet. I could Google him. You'd need his name for that, Layla pointed out, then immediately regretted opening that door. So tell me, Theo looked up at her, amber eyes serious behind his glasses. I'm old enough to know my own dad's name, Mom. Layla hesitated. She'd always planned to tell him eventually, when he was older, when the explanation of why his father wasn't in his life wouldn't sound so much like abandonment, when the whole messy truth wouldn't risk tainting his sense of self-worth. His name is Benjamin, she said finally. Benjamin Hayes. Theo tested the name silently, mouthing it to himself. That's a cool name. Like a superhero or something. I suppose it is, Layla brushed a copper curl from her son's forehead. Now, how about we finish this solar system before we're both late? As Theo returned to his project, Layla wondered if she'd made the right choice. She'd always been careful to speak neutrally about Benjamin, never vilifying him despite her own complicated feelings. He hadn't known about the pregnancy, that had been her choice, made in the raw aftermath of their breakup, when his career was imploding and her news would have seemed like either a trap or a burden. By the time she'd realized she might have been wrong to keep Theo a secret, Benjamin had already rebuilt and transformed his failing startup into an international tech phenomenon. The awkward, by the way, you have a 2-year-old son, conversation seemed impossible then, and only grew more daunting with each passing year. Now, watching Theo complete his model of the solar system with the same methodical focus she'd once observed in his father, Layla wondered for the 1000th time if her choice had been fair to either of them. The details package from Olivia arrived 2 days later, and Layla's eyebrows rose higher with each page she turned. Private cabins for guests. Multiple pre-wedding events, including a welcome reception, a boat cruise, and a rehearsal dinner. A separate schedule of supervised activities for children, ranging from nature hikes to craft workshops to movie nights. This was no ordinary wedding. This was the kind of extravagant celebration featured in lifestyle magazines. What exactly had Olivia been doing these past 9 years? And who was this mysterious fiancé bankrolling what must be a 6-figure wedding weekend? The final page of the package contained a personal note from Olivia. I know what you're thinking. This is not the same girl who once wore a garbage bag as a raincoat because she couldn't afford an umbrella. Life has taken some wild turns. Can't wait to tell you everything in person. Just trust me when I say you're in for some surprises, oh my goodness. And P.S. I've never mentioned you to my fiancé, thought it would be fun for you two to meet fresh. He's in tech too, you'll have loads to talk about. Layla set down the package with a frown. Something about the note struck her as odd, though she couldn't quite put her finger on why. Perhaps it was just the surreal quality of reconnecting with someone who had once known all her secrets but was now essentially a stranger. Shaking off her unease, Layla began making lists, clothes they would need, arrangements for their cat, out-of-office messages for her clients. Whatever this wedding turned out to be, it would at least give Theo a chance to experience something new and exciting. And maybe, just maybe, it would give Layla a chance to reconnect with a friendship that had once meant everything to her. For weeks later, Layla's car wound up the mountain road toward the Lake Tahoe resort. Theo pressed against the window in the back seat, exclaiming over every vista and wildlife sighting. "Mom, I think I just saw a bear," he shouted, fogging up the glass with his excitement. "Probably a large dog, honey," Layla replied, navigating a particularly sharp curve. "But keep your eyes peeled. The welcome package said there are lots of deer around the property." As they rounded the final bend, the resort came into view, and even Layla couldn't suppress a gasp. Nestled against the backdrop of snow-capped mountains and the glittering blue lake, the collection of luxury cabins and a grand central lodge looked like something from a fairy tale. Stone chimneys rose above timber roofs, and expansive windows reflected the breathtaking natural surroundings. Pristine gardens surrounded the buildings, and a wooden dock extended into the lake, where several boats bobbed gently in the afternoon light. "Whoa," Theo breathed. "Is this where we're staying?" "Apparently so," Layla said, equally awestruck. "Your mom's friend certainly knows how to pick a wedding venue." They pulled up to the welcome center, where an attendant in a crisp uniform immediately approached to take their bags and park their car. Layla felt distinctly underdressed in her travel clothes as they were escorted into the soaring lobby of the main lodge, all stone and timber and views of the lake beyond. "Ms. Morgan and Theo. We've been expecting you," a young woman with a tablet approached them. "I'm Belle, the wedding coordinator. Ms. Frost asked me to personally ensure you're settled in." "That's very kind," Layla said, acutely aware of her wrinkled blouse and Theo's dinosaur t-shirt amid the elegant surroundings. "We're a bit travel-worn, I'm afraid." "Not to worry," Belle smiled warmly. "Your cabin is ready, and the welcome reception doesn't begin for another 3 hours. Plenty of time to refresh and relax." She knelt to Theo's level. "And you must be the young man Ms. Frost has been excited to meet. I hear you're interested in astronomy." Theo nodded enthusiastically. "I brought my telescope. Mom said I can look at the stars from the mountains because there's less atmosphere in the way." "That's absolutely right," Belle said. "And we have a special stargazing event for the children tomorrow night led by a local astronomer. Would you like me to add your name to the list?" "Yes, please." Theo bounced on his toes, then turned to Layla. "Can I, Mom? Please?" "Of course," Layla smiled, touched by the thoughtful planning. Whatever else had changed about Olivia, she'd clearly remembered Layla mentioning her son's passion for space. Belle led them through the property to a charming cabin overlooking the lake. Inside, they found a spacious living area with a stone fireplace, a kitchenette stocked with snacks and beverages, and 2 bedrooms, the smaller one already prepared with space-themed bedding and a desk positioned by the window, perfect for setting up a telescope. "This is amazing," Layla said, genuinely impressed. "Please thank Olivia, Ms. Frost, for such thoughtful accommodations." "I will, though I should mention that the cabin assignments and special touches were arranged by Mr. Hayes himself," Belle replied. "He's been very involved in ensuring each guest's comfort." Layla froze, her hand still on the doorknob of her bedroom. "I'm sorry, did you say Hayes?" "Yes, Mr. Benjamin Hayes, Ms. Frost's fiancé," Belle confirmed, checking something on her tablet. "Is everything all right, Ms. Morgan? You've gone quite pale." Layla's mind raced, trying to process this bombshell. Benjamin Hayes. Her Benjamin was marrying Olivia. Her old friend Olivia. It wasn't possible. It had to be a different Benjamin Hayes. The name wasn't common, but surely there could be more than one. "Mom." Theo's voice broke through her panic. "Are you okay?" Layla forced herself to breathe, to smile, to nod. "Yes, just a bit tired from the drive." "Belle, could you remind me?" "I don't think Olivia ever mentioned her fiancé's full name in our correspondence." "He's in tech, correct?" "Yes." "He founded Hayes Innovations," Belle said, clearly proud to be working on such a high-profile wedding. "The quantum encryption company? They just went public last year. It was all over the business news." It was him. Quantum encryption had been Benjamin's obsession back when they were together, when his first company was failing and he was desperately seeking the next big idea. Back when Layla had casually suggested he look into security applications after reading an article about quantum computing. Never imagining that throwaway comment would eventually become the foundation of a billion-dollar company, a company now run by the father of her child, who was currently unpacking his telescope, blissfully unaware that his mysterious absent father was about to marry her college best friend. "Ms. Morgan?" Belle was looking at her with concern. "Would you like me to have the resort doctor check on you?" No, Layla said quickly, pulling herself together. "Just low blood sugar from the drive. I'll have something to eat and rest before the reception." "Of course." The welcome reception begins at 6 o'clock in the Lakeside Pavilion. Casual attire is fine. If you need anything at all, just call the front desk and ask for me. After Belle left, Layla sank onto the sofa, her mind a tornado of questions and implications. Had Olivia known? Had she deliberately kept Benjamin's identity from Layla? Or was this some cosmic coincidence, the universe's idea of a cruel joke? And what was she supposed to do now? Show up at the reception and come face to face with Theo's father for the first time in 9 years? Pretend she didn't know him? Reveal their history to Olivia on the eve of her wedding? "Mom, this place is so cool." Theo emerged from his room, oblivious to her internal crisis. "There's a welcome basket with space stuff in my room. Look, I got a NASA t-shirt and a book about constellations." Layla forced a smile. "That's wonderful, sweetie. Why don't you read your new book while I unpack? Then we can get ready for the party tonight." As Theo settled on his bed with the book, Layla retreated to her own room and closed the door, pulling out her phone with shaking hands. She needed more information before she decided what to do. A quick search confirmed everything Belle had said. Benjamin Hayes, founder and CEO of Hayes Innovations. Tech wunderkind who had transformed a failing startup into a cybersecurity powerhouse through pioneering work in quantum encryption. His company had gone public last year in one of the most successful IPOs of the decade. Forbes estimated his personal net worth at just over $2 billion. And there, in a Society Page article from 6 months ago, was a photo of him with Olivia at a charity gala, her hand resting on his arm, an enormous diamond glinting on her finger. The caption read, "Tech titan Benjamin Hayes and interior designer Olivia Frost announced engagement at annual Metropolitan Museum benefit." Interior designer. So Olivia had pursued their shared dream after all. And somehow, in the process, she'd ended up engaged to the man who had once been the center of Layla's world. The man who had no idea he had a son. A son who was currently in the next room, excited about a welcome basket personally arranged by his own father. Layla's phone buzzed with a text from Olivia, "You're here. Can't wait to see you at the reception. So much to catch up on. Hugs and kisses." Staring at the message, Layla realized she had only a few hours to make an impossible decision. She could pack up and leave now, before anyone saw them, citing a family emergency. She could attend but keep Theo away from all events where Benjamin might be present. Or she could face this head-on, whatever the consequences. None of the options felt right. All of them felt like continuing a lie that had gone on far too long. With a deep breath, Layla began unpacking their clothes, buying herself time to think. As she hung her dress for the reception, a simple blue silk that suddenly seemed woefully inadequate for the occasion, she caught sight of herself in the mirror. The woman who stared back looked scared, uncertain, a far cry from the confident professional she presented to the world. "You can do this," she whispered to her reflection. For Theo. Whatever happened next, her son's well-being had to come first. It always had. The lakeside pavilion glowed with hundreds of twinkling lights as Layla and Theo approached for the welcome reception. Soft music drifted through the evening air, mingling with the sounds of laughter and conversation from the guests already gathered inside. Theo, freshly showered and dressed in his nicest button-down shirt and khakis, practically vibrated with excitement. "Do you think they'll have those little hot dogs wrapped in pastry?" he asked, adjusting his glasses. "Joey had those at his birthday party and said they're what fancy people eat." "They're called pigs in blankets," Layla said, smoothing down his perpetually unruly copper hair. "And if they don't
have them, I promise we'll find something equally delicious." At the entrance to the pavilion, a server offered them flutes of champagne and sparkling cider. Layla took a steadying sip of champagne while scanning the crowd for either Olivia or Benjamin, her heart hammering against her ribs. "Layla! Layla Morgan!" A familiar voice called from behind them. Layla turned to find Olivia hurrying toward them, resplendent in a champagne-colored cocktail dress, her once wild blonde curls now sleekly styled into an elegant updo. 9 years had treated her well, she looked polished and confident, though Layla could still see traces of the passionate, impulsive girl she'd once shared an apartment with. "Olivia," Layla managed, accepting her friend's enthusiastic embrace. "Congratulations. Isn't it beautiful?" Olivia beamed, gesturing around the pavilion. "I still can't believe this is my life sometimes. But forget all that, let me look at you. Still gorgeous as ever. And this must be Theo?" She knelt gracefully to Theo's level, extending her hand. "I'm your mom's old friend. I've heard so much about you." Theo shook her hand solemnly. "It's nice to meet you. Congratulations on getting married. I've never been to a wedding before." "Well, I'm honored that mine is your first," Olivia said warmly. "I've arranged for all sorts of fun activities for the kids this weekend. And wait until you taste the cake tomorrow. It's astronomical." Theo's eyes widened at the space pun. "Do you like astronomy too?" "I know a little," Olivia winked at Layla. "Your mom mentioned you're quite the expert. Perhaps you can show me some constellations while you're here." "I brought my telescope," Theo said excitedly. "And there's a special stargazing event tomorrow." "I know," Olivia smiled. "I helped plan it. Now, let me introduce you both around. The children's area is just through those doors, with supervision and activities if you get bored with all the grown-up talk, Theo." As Olivia led them deeper into the pavilion, Layla fought to keep her expression neutral while her eyes continued their desperate search for Benjamin. "Your fiancé," Is he here yet? She asked, trying to sound merely curious. Ben's running a bit late, Olivia replied. Last-minute work crisis. The price of marrying a CEO, I suppose. But he should be here any minute. You two will get along famously, he's brilliant like you, always thinking 10 steps ahead of everyone else. Layla nodded mechanically, relief and dread warring within her. Every minute without Benjamin was both a reprieve and an extension of her anxiety. How did you two meet? She asked, realizing she needed as much information as possible before the inevitable confrontation. At a charity auction, of all places, Olivia said, guiding them toward a table laden with appetizers, including, Layla noted with a hint of hysteria, pigs and blankets. I was designing the event space pro bono, and he was the keynote speaker. We got talking about quantum physics, of all things. Quantum physics? Layla couldn't help but interject. That doesn't sound like the Olivia I knew. Olivia laughed, the sound tinkling like the champagne bubbles in Layla's glass. Oh, I don't understand a word of it, darling. But I've become very good at nodding intelligently while powerful men explain things. Useful skill in the design world, clients love to mansplain their own taste to you. This glimpse of the old, irreverent Olivia was strangely comforting. Perhaps she hadn't changed as much as Layla had feared. Anyway, Olivia continued, we had this instant connection. He asked me to dinner, and the rest is history. Whirlwind romance. We've only been together a year. A year. They'd gotten engaged after knowing each other less than 6 months. The timeline did nothing to ease Layla's concerns. That seems fast. When you know, Olivia shrugged, then lowered her voice conspiratorially. And between us, when a brilliant billionaire who looks like a Greek god wants to put a ring on it, you don't ask him to slow down. Before Layla could respond to this surprisingly mercenary statement from her once idealistic friend, Theo tugged at her sleeve. Mom, can I try these little hot dog things? And then can I go see the kids area? They have a telescope set up on the deck. Of course, sweetheart, Layla said, grateful for the momentary distraction. Just stay where the supervisors can see you, okay? As Theo darted off with a plate of hors d'oeuvres, Olivia clinked her champagne flute against Layla's. He's absolutely adorable, Lay. Those eyes. And so well-mannered. You've done an amazing job with him. Thank you, Layla said, her throat tight. He's the best thing that ever happened to me. And his father? Still not in the picture? The question caught Layla off guard. No, he's not involved. He doesn't actually know about Theo. Olivia's perfectly shaped eyebrows rose. Really? That's quite a secret to keep. May I ask why? Layla took another sip of champagne, buying herself time. How much should she reveal? It's complicated. The timing was wrong. He was going through a difficult professional period when I found out I was pregnant. And then once he rebounded, it just seemed too late to drop that bombshell. Olivia mused. Men can be surprisingly adaptable when it comes to discovering they have children. Especially successful men. They tend to view offspring as extensions of their legacy. There was something odd about Olivia's tone, something that raised the hairs on the back of Layla's neck. Before she could analyze it further, a ripple of excitement moved through the pavilion. Heads turned toward the entrance. Voices hushed, then rose in renewed conversation. Speaking of successful men, Olivia said, her face lighting up, there's mine now. Come, you have to meet him. She grabbed Layla's hand, pulling her through the crowd toward the entrance. Layla felt as though she were moving through molasses, her feet leaden, her pulse thundering in her ears. And then the crowd parted, and there he was. Benjamin Hayes stood in the entrance to the pavilion, taller than she remembered, his dark hair now threaded with distinguished silver at the temples. His features were more defined, the boyish charm of his 20s evolved into the commanding presence of a man at the height of his powers. He wore his success like a bespoke suit, which, she noted distantly, he was actually wearing, the tailoring impeccable, the subtle pinstripe emphasizing his lean frame. He was nodding at something an older man was saying to him, his expression polite but distracted, until he caught sight of Olivia approaching. His face transformed with genuine warmth, and Layla felt a stab of something that might have been jealousy, or perhaps just the pain of witnessing what she'd once had and lost. "There you are," Olivia said, reaching up to kiss him briefly. "Darling, there's someone special I want you to meet. My oldest friend from design school. We were practically joined at the hip for 4 years." Benjamin turned his attention to Layla, his expression shifting from polite interest to blank shock in the space of a heartbeat. He went utterly still, the color draining from his face. "Layla," he said, her name barely audible. "You know each other?" Olivia looked between them, confusion evident in her expression. For an excruciating moment, no one spoke. The ambient noise of the party seemed to fade away, leaving only the roaring in Layla's ears and the weight of 9 years of secrets pressing down on her chest. "We've met," Layla finally managed, her voice remarkably steady despite the earthquake happening inside her. "A long time ago, in New York." "Small world," Olivia said with a nervous laugh. "Ben, darling, you never mentioned knowing Layla." Benjamin seemed to shake himself from his stupor. "It was brief," he said, his eyes never leaving Layla's face. "Before I started Hayes Innovations. We moved in similar circles for a while." The understatement was so enormous that Layla might have laughed if she weren't terrified of becoming hysterical. Similar circles, as if they hadn't shared an apartment for nearly a year. As if he hadn't been the one to hold her when she cried over her father's death. As if they hadn't planned a future together before it all fell apart. "How fascinating," Olivia said, looking between them with increasing curiosity. "You'll have to tell me that story sometime. But Ben, you haven't properly met Layla's son yet. He's around here somewhere." "Mom." As if on cue, Theo's voice rang out across the pavilion. "Mom, come quick. They've got the telescope set up, and you can see Jupiter's moons." Layla turned to see her son, their son, rushing toward them, his face alight with excitement, blissfully unaware of the emotional tsunami about to break over all their lives. Benjamin's sharp intake of breath told her the exact moment he registered Theo's age, his copper hair, his familiar amber eyes behind those small glasses. She saw the mental calculations happening behind his shocked expression. 9 years since they'd last seen each other, an 8-year-old boy, the timing, the undeniable resemblance. "Mommy, why is that man staring at us?" Theo whispered, tugging at Layla's sleeve, his curious amber eyes fixed on the tall figure across the ballroom. Layla Morgan felt the air vanish from her lungs as she turned. 8 years dissolved in an instant. There he stood, Benjamin Hayes, looking even more devastating in his tailored tuxedo than in her memories. The same chiseled jawline, the same piercing amber eyes that had once looked at her with such passion, now wide with shock. "Layla?" His voice carried across the rehearsal dinner, causing heads to turn. Is he? Her hands trembled as she gripped her son's shoulders protectively. "We need to leave. Now." "But why?" Theo's innocent question hung in the air. "Who is that man?" Before she could answer, her college friend Olivia appeared, radiant in her pre-wedding gown, linking her arm through Benjamin's. "Layla, I see you've spotted my fiancé." Layla's world tilted on its axis as the horrible truth crystallized. The mysterious billionaire CEO her friend was marrying tomorrow was the same man who had walked away from her 8 years ago. The same man who had never known he had fathered a son. A son who now stood beside her with his father's unmistakable amber eyes. The rehearsal dinner had become a blur of tension and forced smiles after that initial confrontation. Somehow Layla had managed to introduce Theo to both Olivia and Benjamin without revealing the truth, though she caught Benjamin staring at her son throughout the evening with an expression of dawning recognition that grew more certain by the minute. Now, back in their cabin with Theo finally asleep after the excitement of the evening, Layla paced the small living room, waiting for the knock she knew would come. Benjamin wouldn't let this revelation go without confronting her. She knew him too well, or at least, she had once. When the soft knock finally came, she was almost relieved. The waiting had been excruciating. She opened the door to find Benjamin standing on the porch, his formal attire exchanged for a simple button-down shirt and jeans that reminded her painfully of the man she'd once known, before power and wealth had transformed him. "May I come in?" His voice was controlled, but she could hear the tension vibrating beneath the surface. Layla stepped aside wordlessly, closing the door quietly behind him. For a moment, they simply looked at each other, the weight of 9 years and countless unspoken words hanging between them. "He's mine, isn't he?" Benjamin finally broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper. "Theo. He's my son." It wasn't really a question, but Layla nodded anyway. "Yes." The confirmation seemed to hit him physically. He sank onto the sofa, running a hand through his hair in a gesture so familiar it made her heart ache. "How old is he exactly?" 8 years and 4 months. Benjamin did the math silently, his expression shifting as the timeline became clear. "You were pregnant when I left for the West Coast investment meeting." "I didn't know then," Layla said, remaining standing, needing the physical advantage of height in this conversation. "I found out 3 weeks later, after you'd already decided not to come back." "Not to come back?" Benjamin looked up sharply. "Is that what you thought? That I decided not to come back to you?" "That's what happened," Layla said, confusion mingling with the defensive anger she'd carried for years. "You called from San Francisco, said you'd had an epiphany about the company, that you were staying to rebuild from scratch. You said, and I quote, 'This is my one shot, Lay. I have to take it.' And you took that to mean I was leaving you?" Incredulity colored his voice. "I meant I was staying an extra 2 weeks to secure the funding. I called you every day. Then suddenly you stopped answering. Your number was disconnected. You'd moved out of our apartment. You vanished." Layla stared at him, her carefully constructed narrative of abandonment beginning to crack. "Your email stopped. You never tried to find me. I sent dozens of emails. I called your friends, your brother. No one knew where you'd gone, or they wouldn't tell me." Benjamin stood again, agitation driving him to pace the small room. "I thought you'd left me, Layla. When I finally got back to New York, all your things were gone. No note. Nothing." Layla felt as though the floor had disappeared beneath her feet. "That's not possible. I was there for weeks after your call. I left messages. I emailed you about the pregnancy. You never responded." "What?" Benjamin stopped pacing, his face pale with shock. "You told me about Theo?" "I tried to," Layla said, her voice hollow. "I sent 3 emails. The last one said that I understood your silence was an answer in itself, and that I wouldn't contact you again." They stared at each other, 9 years of misunderstanding stretching between them like a vast, unbridgeable chasm. "Atlas," Benjamin said suddenly. "What?" "Atlas Holdings, the investment group in San Francisco. They insisted I use their secure servers for all communication during negotiations. Military-grade security protocols." He ran his hands through his hair again, realization dawning. "My personal email was automatically forwarded through their system during that period. If there was a technical glitch." "You're saying you never got my emails?" Layla's voice was faint. "Any of them?" "I swear to you, Layla. I never knew you were pregnant. I never knew about Theo." His voice broke on their son's name. "I would never have abandoned my own child. Or you. I loved you." The simple past tense, loved, not love, somehow made the statement more believable. This wasn't a man trying to win her back. This was a man grappling with a truth that had upended his understanding of the past 9 years. Layla sank into the armchair opposite him, her legs no longer able to support her. "This can't be happening. All this time, I thought you'd left me because my company was failing." Benjamin looked shell-shocked. "I threw myself into rebuilding it, into proving I wasn't a failure. And then when it finally succeeded beyond my wildest dreams, I looked up and you were gone. I tried to find you again then, but it was as if you'd disappeared." I changed my name back to Sinclair after I left New York, Layla admitted. I moved 3 times in 2 years. I didn't want to be found, by you, by anyone who knew me before. I was pregnant, alone, and humiliated. I wanted a fresh start. Benjamin nodded slowly, processing this. Then his expression sharpened with a new thought. Last night at the reception, you recognized me immediately, didn't you? You knew Olivia was marrying me before you arrived. Layla shook her head. I had no idea until we got here. The wedding coordinator mentioned your name. Until then, Olivia had just referred to you as her fiancé. And you still came to the reception, knowing you'd have to face me? What choice did I have? We were already here. Theo was excited about the weekend. I couldn't just disappear without explanations. Benjamin absorbed this, then asked the question that had clearly been burning inside him since the moment he saw Theo. What is he like? My son? The possessive pronoun sent a complicated ripple of emotions through Layla, defensiveness, sadness, and an unexpected touch of relief at finally sharing the weight of parenthood, even if only in conversation. He's brilliant, she said softly. Curious about everything. Loves space, science, figuring out how things work. He's kind, thoughtful, sometimes too serious for an 8-year-old, but then he'll say something completely silly and remind me he's still a child. A small smile touched her lips. He hates green vegetables but will eat them if I explain the nutritional benefits in detail. He sleeps with a nightlight shaped like Saturn. He wants to be an astronaut or a quantum physicist, depending on the day. Each detail seemed to hit Benjamin like a physical blow, gifts received and mourned simultaneously. He has my eyes, he said quietly. And your mind, Layla acknowledged. The way he approaches problems, how he gets that little furrow between his brows when he's concentrating, that's all you. And he doesn't know about me? He knows your name. That you're a businessman. That you work all over the world, Layla met his gaze directly. I've never spoken badly of you to him, Benjamin. I've always been careful to keep my own feelings separate from how I talk about you to Theo. Thank you for that. The simple gratitude in his voice was genuine. Most women wouldn't have been so fair in your position. A silence fell between them, both absorbing the seismic revelations of the past few minutes. Finally, Benjamin asked the question that would determine everything that followed. What do we do now, Layla? She took a deep breath, considering her answer carefully. I don't know. This is uncharted territory. Do we tell him? Theo? We can't just spring something like this on him in the middle of a wedding weekend, Layla said, protective instincts flaring. He needs time, preparation. And Olivia, God, Olivia. What about her? You're marrying her tomorrow. Benjamin's expression turned troubled. I need to talk to her. She deserves to know the truth before we proceed any further. The truth could devastate her, Layla pointed out. Finding out on the eve of her wedding that her fiancé has a child with her old friend, that's the kind of revelation that destroys relationships. Would you prefer I marry her without telling her? Start our life together with a lie of this magnitude? Of course not, Layla said, frustrated. I'm just saying that timing matters. Maybe wait until after the wedding. Tell her privately during your honeymoon. Benjamin studied her with a penetrating gaze that had always made her feel transparent. Is that really about protecting Olivia? Or is it about protecting yourself from an uncomfortable situation? The question stung with its accuracy. Before Layla could formulate a response, a small voice came from the hallway leading to the bedrooms. Mom? Who are you talking to? They both turned to see Theo standing in the doorway in his space-themed pajamas, hair rumpled from sleep, glasses slightly askew. His curious gaze shifted from his mother to Benjamin, recognition dawning on his young face. You're the man getting married, he said to Benjamin. Ms. Frost's fiancé. Yes, Benjamin replied, his voice carefully controlled despite the emotion Layla could see him fighting. I'm Benjamin Hayes. You can.
Call me Ben if you like. I'm Theo, the boy said, moving further into the room. Why are you in our cabin so late? Is something wrong? Layla and Benjamin exchanged a quick, panicked glance. This moment had arrived far sooner than either had anticipated. Nothing's wrong, sweetheart, Layla said, moving to her son's side. Mr. Hayes and I were just catching up. We knew each other a long time ago, before you were born. In New York? Theo asked, his quick mind making connections. Yes, in New York, Benjamin confirmed, unable to take his eyes off his son. Theo studied Benjamin with undisguised interest. My mom said my dad lives in New York. Did you know him? The innocent question landed like a grenade in the room. Layla froze, caught between truth and the protective instinct to shield her son from too much, too soon. Benjamin looked to her, clearly deferring to her judgment on how to proceed. The gesture, his recognition of her authority as Theo's primary parent, earned him a small measure of gratitude from Layla. Theo, she said carefully, guiding him to sit beside her on the sofa, this is actually a very complicated grown-up situation. Mr. Hayes and I have some things to discuss, and then we need to talk with you. But it's very late now, and I think this conversation would be better in the morning, when we're all rested. Don't you agree? Theo looked between them, his expression suggesting he knew something significant was being withheld, but he nodded slowly. I guess so. But you promised to tell me tomorrow? The whole truth. The whole truth, Layla confirmed, her heart aching with the weight of what that would mean. Okay. Theo stood, then hesitated, turning back to Benjamin. Do you like astronomy, Mr. Hayes? The question, so innocent and yet so loaded with meaning, brought a sheen of moisture to Benjamin's eyes that he quickly blinked away. Very much, he replied. In fact, I studied astrophysics before I switched to computer science. Theo's eyes widened with excitement. Really? I'm building a model of the solar system for science class. Maybe you could help me sometime. Mom tries, but she always gets the order of the planets mixed up. I'd like that, Benjamin said softly. Very much. Cool. Theo turned toward his bedroom, then paused again. Good night, Mom. Good night, Mr. Hayes. Good night, Theo, they replied in unison, watching as he disappeared back down the hallway. When they heard his bedroom door close, Layla released a shaky breath. That was close. He's remarkable, Benjamin said, his voice thick with emotion. So poised, so articulate. He's also extremely perceptive, Layla warned. He knows something's going on. We won't be able to put him off for long. Then we tell him tomorrow, Benjamin said decisively. Together. And I'll speak with Olivia tonight. Tonight? It's almost midnight. This can't wait, Layla. She deserves to know before things progress any further. He stood, determination evident in every line of his body. I'll come back in the morning around 9 o'clock. We can talk to Theo together and then figure out next steps. Layla nodded reluctantly, knowing he was right despite her desire to delay the inevitable confrontations. All right. 9 o'clock. At the door, Benjamin paused, turning back to her with an expression that was difficult to read. For what it's worth, Layla, you've done an extraordinary job with him. I'm sorry I wasn't there to help, but I'm here now, and I want to be part of his life. The simple declaration, devoid of accusations or recriminations, touched something deep within her. Good night, Benjamin. After he left, Layla sank back onto the sofa, her mind replaying their conversation. 9 years of anger and hurt had been built on a misunderstanding, emails never received, calls never returned, each believing themselves abandoned by the other. And in the middle of it all, a child who had grown up without his father due to nothing more than a technological glitch and two people too hurt to push past their pride and confusion. The tragedy of it all was almost too much to bear. Layla checked on Theo, finding him already asleep again, one arm flung over his space encyclopedia. She gently removed his glasses and tucked the blanket around him, her heart full of love and fear for what tomorrow would bring. Whatever happened, his world was about to change irrevocably. She only hoped he was resilient enough to weather the storm. Back in the living room, Layla poured herself a glass of water and stepped onto the cabin's small deck. The night was clear, the stars brilliant against the velvet blackness of the sky. Somewhere out there was Jupiter with its moons, the sight that had so excited Theo earlier. The vast perspective of space had always humbled her, reminding her that human dramas, no matter how all-consuming they felt, were infinitesimally small in the grand scheme of the universe. Her phone vibrated in her pocket with a text. She expected it to be from Benjamin, perhaps reconsidering their plan for the morning. Instead, she saw Olivia's name on the screen. "We need to talk. Now. My cabin. Come alone." Layla's stomach dropped. The tone was unmistakable. Olivia knew. Benjamin had already told her. With a sense of dread, Layla texted back a simple, "On my way," and went inside to ask the night attendant assigned to their section of cabins to listen for Theo while she stepped out briefly. Olivia's cabin, or rather suite, was in the main lodge, a short walk from Layla's. As she approached the ornate double doors, Layla steeled herself for what promised to be a difficult conversation. Before she could knock, the door swung open to reveal Olivia, still in her evening dress but with her makeup smudged from what had clearly been tears. "Come in," she said, her voice tight with controlled emotion. The suite was expansive and luxurious, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the moonlit lake. A half-empty bottle of champagne sat on the coffee table alongside a crystal flute. There was no sign of Benjamin. "Where is he?" Layla asked, looking around the suite. "Taking a walk," Olivia replied, closing the door behind them. "He needed time to process." "As do I." "Olivia, I can explain." "Can you?" Olivia cut her off, moving to the windows to stare out at the lake. "Can you explain why my oldest friend never mentioned that she had a child with my fiancé? Can you explain why you showed up at my wedding knowing full well who I was marrying, yet said nothing?" "I didn't know," Layla said quickly. "I swear, Liv, I had no idea Benjamin was your fiancé until we arrived here. You never mentioned his name in any of our correspondence. And when you found out, why not come to me immediately?" "I was in shock," Layla admitted. "I was trying to figure out how to handle it without ruining your wedding, without traumatizing my son." "Your son." Olivia's correction was pointed. "Yours and Ben's." "Yes." Olivia took a deep breath, visibly gathering herself. "He told me everything. About your relationship in New York, about the misunderstanding afterward, about how he never knew about Theo until tonight." "It's the truth," Layla said quietly. "All of it." "I believe him," Olivia said, surprising Layla. "Ben wouldn't lie about something like this. He's many things, but not a liar." An uncomfortable silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant sound of waves lapping against the shore below. Finally, Olivia spoke again, her voice softer but no less intense. "Did you love him? Back then?" The question caught Layla off guard. "Yes," she answered honestly. "Very much." "And now?" Layla hesitated, uncertain how to respond. "Now I hardly know him. 9 years is a long time. We're different people." Olivia nodded slowly, absorbing this. "You know what the worst part is? When he told me about Theo, about you, I saw something in his eyes I've never seen before. A light, a connection. It made me realize that in all our time together, he's never looked at me that way." "Olivia." "No, let me finish." She took a steadying breath. "I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Did you come here to win him back? Is that what this is about?" "What?" "No." Layla was genuinely shocked by the accusation. "Olivia, I had no idea he was your fiancé. I came because you invited me. Because you were once my dearest friend, and because Theo was excited about the trip. That's all. Olivia studied her face, searching for any sign of deception. What she saw must have satisfied her because some of the tension left her shoulders. I believe you, she said finally, which makes this whole situation even more cruelly ironic. She moved to the coffee table and poured herself more champagne, not offering any to Layla. Do you know how Ben and I really met? At a charity auction? Yes, Layla replied, recalling their earlier conversation. You were designing the space. Yes, but do you know which charity? Olivia took a long sip of champagne. The Metropolitan Fertility Foundation. They fund research and treatment for families struggling with infertility. The significance wasn't lost on Layla. Oh. Yes. So the universe has quite the sense of humor, doesn't it? Olivia's laugh held no mirth. I've been working with them for years. Personal interest. You've been trying to have children? Layla asked gently. Since I was 25, Olivia confirmed. Endometriosis, 3 surgeries, 4 rounds of IVF. No success. I'm so sorry, Olivia. I had no idea. Why would you? We haven't really been in each other's lives for years. She shrugged, but the casual gesture couldn't disguise the pain beneath it. When I met Ben at that event, it felt like fate. He was so passionate about the cause, so understanding about my situation. We connected immediately. And when he proposed, he told me it didn't matter if we never had biological children. We could adopt, use surrogates, whatever it took. He just wanted a family with me. Each word was a fresh cut to Layla's heart, revealing the depth of the damage their situation would cause. He sounds like he truly cares for you. He does, Olivia acknowledged, in his way. But I'm not sure it's enough anymore. What do you mean? I mean that seeing him with Theo, even for those few minutes at the reception, it changed something. Or rather, it revealed something that was already there. Olivia set down her champagne flute with deliberate care. He wants his son, Layla, and I can't blame him for that. But where does that leave me? The infertile fiancé who can't give him children of his own. That's not fair to yourself, Layla protested. Your worth isn't determined by your ability to have children. Isn't it? Isn't that exactly what society tells women? What men ultimately want? Olivia's bitter laugh held years of accumulated pain. I've spent a decade trying to prove that theory wrong, and now I find out my fiancé already has a son with my college roommate. If that's not cosmic irony, I don't know what is. Layla moved closer, reaching for her friend's hand. What did Benjamin say about the wedding? That it's my decision. That he'll understand if I want to postpone or cancel. That he still wants to marry me, but he also wants to be part of Theo's life, and he knows that complicates things. What do you want to do? Olivia looked at her directly, vulnerability evident in her eyes. I don't know. Part of me wants to go through with it, to claim what I've worked so hard for, what I deserve. Another part wonders if I'd always be second place in his heart now. If every time he looks at me, he'll be thinking of the family he could have had with you. That's not fair to him either, Layla said gently. People can love in different ways. His feelings for Theo don't diminish what he feels for you. Perhaps, Olivia conceded. But they changed the equation, and I need to decide if I can live with those new terms. She squeezed Layla's hand, then released it. I need time to think. Alone. Of course. Layla stood, recognizing the dismissal. For what it's worth, I'm truly sorry about all of this. The last thing I ever wanted was to hurt you, especially on what should be the happiest weekend of your life. As she reached the door, Olivia called after her. Layla, do you still have feelings for him? For Ben? The question hit Layla like a physical blow. Did she? The man she'd seen tonight was both familiar and a stranger, the same intense amber eyes and thoughtful manner, but tempered by years of experience she hadn't shared. The connection between them was undeniable. But was it merely the echo of old feelings, or something that could reignite? I don't know, she answered honestly. But even if I did, I wouldn't act on them. Your friendship meant too much to me once. I'd like to think that still counts for something. Olivia nodded, a sad smile touching her lips. Get some sleep, Layla. Tomorrow is going to be a long day for all of us. Layla returned to her cabin, her mind whirling with the events of the night. The attendant assured her that Theo had slept peacefully in her absence. After checking on him once more, she retreated to her own bedroom, though sleep seemed an impossible dream. As she lay awake staring at the ceiling, Layla tried to imagine what the morning would bring. How would Theo react to learning Benjamin was his father? What would Olivia decide about the wedding? And where did all of this leave her, the woman who had built a life around the absence of a man who had never intentionally abandoned her? The questions circled relentlessly, offering no answers until exhaustion finally claimed her in the early hours of the morning. Layla awoke to sunlight streaming through the curtains and the smell of coffee brewing. For a moment, she was disoriented, the events of the previous night feeling like a strange dream. Then reality crashed back, and she sat up with a jolt. Theo. Benjamin. The impending conversation that would change everything. Checking the time, she saw it was nearly 8:30. Benjamin would arrive in half an hour. She quickly showered and dressed, trying to prepare herself mentally for what was to come. When she emerged from her bedroom, she found Theo already up, sitting at the small kitchen counter with a bowl of cereal and his space encyclopedia. "Morning, Mom," he said, looking up from his book. "I made coffee." "I see that," she smiled, touched by his thoughtfulness. "Thank you, sweetheart. Mr. Hayes is coming over this morning, isn't he?" Theo asked, watching her carefully over the rim of his glasses. "To finish your talk from last night?" "Yes," Layla confirmed, pouring herself a cup of the coffee, strong, the way she liked it. Theo was always attentive to such details. "He'll be here at 9 o'clock. We have something important to discuss with you." "Is it about my dad?" The direct question caught her off guard, though perhaps it shouldn't have. Theo had always been perceptive, and the tension of the previous night had been obvious even to a child. "What makes you ask that?" she hedged, buying time. Theo shrugged with a casualness that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Mr. Hayes was looking at me weird all night at the reception. And then he came here super late to talk to you, and you both got all quiet when I asked if he knew my dad." He pushed his cereal around the bowl. "Plus, he has eyes like mine. I saw it in the pictures of him on Ms. Frost's phone." Layla's heart squeezed painfully. Of course he had noticed. Her brilliant, observant son who missed nothing. "Yes," she said quietly. "It is about your dad." Theo nodded, processing this confirmation. "Is Mr. Hayes my dad?" The simple, direct question hung in the air between them. Layla had imagined this moment 1,000 different ways over the years, but never like this, in a luxurious cabin the morning before his father's wedding to another woman. "Yes," she said finally, deciding that honesty was the only possible path forward. "Benjamin is your father." Theo's expression remained remarkably composed, though she saw a flicker of emotion in his eyes, relief, perhaps, at having his suspicion confirmed. Or maybe something deeper, more complex. "Why didn't he ever come see me before?" he asked, the question heartbreakingly simple. "He didn't know about you," Layla explained gently. "I thought I had told him, but my messages never reached him. He only found out last night, when he saw you at the reception." "Really?" Hope and skepticism warred in Theo's young face. "He didn't know about me at all." "Really," Layla confirmed. "If he had known, I believe he would have been part of your life from the beginning." Theo seemed to consider this carefully, his gaze dropping to his cereal bowl. "Is that why you're telling me now? Because he wants to be part of my life?" Yes, Layla said, moving to sit beside him. He very much wants to know you, Theo. But we both thought you should have a say in how that happens. It's a lot to take in, and no one would blame you if you needed time. Does this mean we're staying for the wedding? The question was so practical, so unexpectedly mundane amidst the emotional complexity of the situation that Layla couldn't help but smile. That's one of the things we need to figure out. A lot depends on what Ms. Frost decides. Because she just found out her fiancé has a kid she didn't know about, Theo reasoned, connecting the dots with his usual quickness. That's kind of a big deal before you marry someone. Yes, it is, Layla agreed, constantly amazed by her son's emotional intelligence. She's thinking about what she wants to do. Theo nodded thoughtfully. I hope she still gets married. She seemed really happy yesterday. Before Layla could respond to this surprisingly mature observation, a knock sounded at the door. Theo's eyes immediately darted toward the sound, a mixture of nervousness and anticipation crossing his face. Ready? Layla asked him softly. I think so, he replied, straightening his glasses with a gesture that reminded her painfully of his father. Layla opened the door to find Benjamin standing on the porch, looking as though he hadn't slept any more than she had. He was casually dressed in jeans and a soft gray sweater that matched his eyes, Theo's eyes. Good morning, he said, his gaze moving past her to where Theo sat at the counter. I hope I'm not too early. Not at all, Layla replied, stepping aside to let him in. We were just having breakfast. Would you like some coffee? Please, Benjamin said, moving into the cabin with a carefulness that spoke volumes about his awareness of the significance of this moment. An awkward silence fell as Layla poured him coffee. Theo and Benjamin studied each other openly, neither quite knowing how to begin. I like your sweater, Theo said finally, breaking the tension. Gray is my favorite color. Mine too, Benjamin replied, a small smile softening his features. It's the color of possibility, neither black nor white, but something more complex in between. Theo's eyes widened slightly at this philosophical observation. Yeah, exactly. That's what I always think too. Mom says it's because it matches my eyes, but I think it's deeper than that. Sounds like we think alike, Benjamin said, accepting the coffee Layla handed him with a grateful nod. Mom told me you're my dad, Theo stated directly, causing both adults to freeze momentarily. She said you didn't know about me until yesterday. Is that true? Benjamin set down his coffee carefully, giving the question the serious consideration it deserved. Yes, it's true. If I had known about you, Theo, I would have been in your life from the very beginning. Not knowing you existed is the greatest regret of my life. Theo absorbed this, his expression thoughtful. So it wasn't that you didn't want me? No, Benjamin said emphatically, emotion thickening his voice. Never that. I would have wanted you more than anything in the world. Something in Theo's posture relaxed slightly at this assurance, tension he'd carried for so long that neither he nor Layla had fully recognized it until it began to ease. I have a lot of questions, he said. I'm sure you do, Benjamin replied. And I promise to answer every single one as honestly as I can, for as long as you want to ask them. Starting with, Theo took a deep breath, as if gathering courage. Are you still getting married today? To Ms. Frost? The directness of the question seemed to surprise Benjamin. He glanced at Layla, who gave a small nod of encouragement. I don't know, he answered honestly. Olivia is still deciding what she wants to do. Finding out about you was a big surprise for her, too. Because she wants kids of her own, Theo reasoned, and finding out you already have one might make her feel weird. Both adults stared at him, startled by his insight. That's partly it, Benjamin acknowledged. How did you know that? Theo shrugged. I heard her talking to one of the other ladies at the reception about how hard they'd been trying. She seemed really sad about it. Layla and Benjamin exchanged a look of shared amazement at their son's perceptiveness. You're very observant, Benjamin said. Mom says I notice things other people miss, Theo replied, a hint of pride in his voice. She's right. Benjamin hesitated, then asked the question that was clearly most important to him. Theo, how do you feel about all this? About finding out I'm your father? About possibly getting to know each other? Theo considered the question with a seriousness that belied his 8 years. I always wondered about you, he said finally. What you were like. If I was like you. Mom told me some things, but it wasn't the same as knowing for real. He adjusted his glasses, gathering his thoughts. I think I'd like to know you, if you want to know me too. The simple declaration, delivered with a child's straightforward honesty, visibly moved Benjamin. I want that very much, he said, his voice thick with emotion. More than anything. Theo nodded, satisfied with this answer. Good. Then we can start with you explaining quantum encryption to me. Mom tried once, but she got all the physics wrong. The tension in the room broke as both adults laughed, Benjamin's eyes meeting Layla's over their son's head in a moment of shared wonder at the remarkable child they had created. I'd be happy to explain quantum encryption, Benjamin said, smiling. Though I should warn you, it's pretty complex stuff. I can handle it, Theo assured him confidently. I've been reading about quantum mechanics since I was 6. As Theo began peppering Benjamin with questions about his work, Layla watched them together, her heart a tangle of emotions too complex to name, relief that their first meeting had gone so well, pride in her son's maturity and resilience, and something else, something unexpected, a flicker of warmth at seeing Benjamin in this new light, as a father genuinely entranced by his child. Her phone buzzed with an incoming text, breaking her reverie. It was from Olivia, decision made. Need to see you both. My sweet. 11 a.m. Layla showed the message to Benjamin, whose expression grew serious once more. Whatever Olivia had decided would shape all their futures, not just the wedding, but the complex family dynamics that would follow. We should go, he said quietly. Will Mrs. Powell be available to stay with Theo? I don't need a babysitter, Theo protested, having seen the message exchange. I'm old enough to stay by myself for a little while. It's not about age, sweetheart, Layla explained gently. It's about giving the grown-ups some space to figure things out. This is a complicated situation for everyone. Because of the wedding, yes, Theo said. And because of other things too. What other things? Layla asked, surprised by his perception. Theo gave her a look that suggested he thought she was being deliberately obtuse. The medical stuff. You're going to talk about that too, right? Benjamin looked confused. Medical stuff? Layla hesitated, then decided Theo deserved more transparency. There's something else we haven't told you, Benjamin. Something medical. Is something wrong with Theo? Alarm immediately sharpened his features. No, nothing's wrong, Layla assured him quickly. But you remember how sometimes you get those sharp pains in your joints, Theo? And how you bruise more easily than other kids? Theo nodded. Dr. Powell said it might be a connective tissue thing, right? It's called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, Layla said. It's genetic, which means it's passed down from parents to children. She glanced at Benjamin, who was listening with growing concern. I don't have it, which means it likely came from your father's side of the family. Do I have it? Benjamin asked, his brow furrowed. I don't know, Layla admitted. But if Theo does have EDS, knowing your medical history could be very important for his treatment. That's one of the things we need to discuss with Olivia, how to handle Theo's medical needs going forward. What kind of treatment would I need? Theo asked, a hint of anxiety entering his voice for the first time. Nothing dramatic, Layla assured him. Mostly monitoring, maybe physical therapy, being careful with certain activities. But having your father's medical information will help the doctors know exactly what we're dealing with. Benjamin moved closer to Theo, his expression serious but gentle. If there's anything I can do to help, Tests, medical history, whatever's needed, I'll do it immediately. Your health is the most important thing. The simple declaration seemed to reassure Theo. Okay. But I still don't need a babysitter while you talk to Ms. Frost. Layla and Benjamin exchanged a look, silently negotiating. Finally, Benjamin spoke. How about a compromise? Instead of a babysitter, would you be interested in joining the children's nature hike that's scheduled for this morning? I understand they're going to be looking for fossils along the lake shore. Theo's face lit up. Real fossils? Real fossils, Benjamin confirmed. The guide is a paleontologist from the State University. That sounds acceptable, Theo said with such adult seriousness that both parents had to suppress smiles. After arranging for Theo to join the nature hike, Layla and Benjamin made their way to Olivia's suite. The weight of the impending conversation heavy between them. Neither spoke much during the short walk, each lost in their own thoughts about what Olivia might have decided and what it would mean for all of them. When they arrived at her suite, they found Olivia transformed from the emotional woman of the previous night. She was perfectly put together in a crisp white blouse and tailored pants, her hair swept into an elegant updo, her makeup flawless. Only the slight shadows beneath her eyes betrayed any sign of a difficult night. Thank you for coming, she said, ushering them into the sitting area where a tray of coffee and pastries waited. Please sit. They arranged themselves awkwardly, Olivia taking a chair while Layla and Benjamin sat on opposite ends of the sofa. For a moment, no one spoke, the tension in the room palpable. I've made my decision, Olivia said finally, her voice steady. I'm going to postpone the wedding. Benjamin nodded slowly, accepting her choice without protest. Postpone, not cancel, Olivia clarified, looking between them. There's a difference. What are you thinking? Layla asked gently. I'm thinking that none of us should make permanent, life-altering decisions in the midst of such an emotional situation, Olivia replied, her tone measured and thoughtful. Ben and I need time for him to get to know his son, time for me to process what this means for our relationship, time for all of us to figure out how we move forward. She turned her gaze directly to Benjamin. I love you, she said simply. That hasn't changed overnight. But the circumstances of our life together have changed dramatically, and I need to be certain I can accept those new terms before I commit to forever. That's more than fair, Benjamin acknowledged. I want you to be sure, Olivia. About all of it. What about the guests? Layla asked, practical concerns rising to the fore. The arrangements? They've already been informed, Olivia said. I spoke with the wedding planner at dawn. We're converting today's ceremony into a celebration of friendship instead. Still formal, still with the dinner and dancing afterward, but without the legal binding. Most guests are being understanding, especially since we're still providing the full weekend of activities they were promised. The decisiveness of her planning impressed Layla. This was the Olivia she remembered from college, pragmatic and efficient when faced with a crisis, able to reorganize and adapt without falling apart. There is one other matter we need to discuss, Olivia continued, her gaze shifting to include Layla. Theo's medical situation. How did you know about that? Layla asked, surprised. Ben told me last night, Olivia explained. And it's actually one of the reasons I wanted to speak with both of you together. She took a deep breath. I have a proposition. Layla and Benjamin exchanged confused glances. What kind of proposition? Benjamin asked. I'm on the board of the Metropolitan Fertility Foundation, Olivia said, the same organization that brought Ben and me together. We don't just support fertility treatments. We also fund genetic research, especially for hereditary conditions that affect children. She leaned forward, her expression earnest. There's a new research program focused specifically on Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. They're developing advanced genetic testing that can identify specific mutations and tailor treatments accordingly. Theo would be an ideal candidate for the program. What would that involve? Layla asked cautiously. Comprehensive genetic testing for Theo, Ben, and ideally both extended families to trace the inheritance pattern. The foundation would cover all costs, of course. In return, the anonymized data would contribute to their research. And the benefit for Theo? Benjamin asked, his protective instincts clearly engaged. The most advanced diagnosis and treatment protocol available, Olivia replied. Access to specialists who are leading the field, and potentially, if he qualifies, participation in clinical trials for new supportive therapies. Layla considered the offer carefully. This is very generous, Olivia. But I have to ask, why? After everything that's happened? Olivia's expression softened. Because despite the complicated circumstances, Theo is a child who needs help. And because, she hesitated, vulnerability briefly showing through her composed exterior, because even if Ben and I don't end up together, I've spent years working with the foundation. Helping families and children is important to me. It's who I am. The simple statement resonated with both Layla and Benjamin. Whatever else had changed in their complicated triangle, Olivia's fundamental character, her compassion and determination to make a difference, remained constant. I think it's worth considering, Benjamin said, looking to Layla for her opinion. But of course, it would be entirely Theo's choice whether to participate. I agree, Layla nodded. I'll discuss it with him. And thank you, Olivia. This is incredibly kind given the circumstances. The circumstances are what they are, Olivia replied with a small shrug. We can't change the past. We can only decide how to move forward from here. As they continued discussing the logistics of both the postponed wedding and the potential medical program for Theo, Layla found herself watching Olivia with newfound respect. The girl she had known in college had grown into a woman of remarkable strength and dignity, someone who could face heartbreak and disappointment without losing her sense of purpose or compassion. Whatever happened between Olivia and Benjamin going forward, Layla hoped they might somehow salvage their friendship. There had been a time when Olivia had been like a sister to her. Perhaps in this strange new family configuration they were creating, they could find their way back to some version of that bond. After finalizing the details with Olivia, Layla and Benjamin left the suite to retrieve Theo from his nature hike. As they walked along the lakeside path, a comfortable silence settled between them, the first moment of genuine peace since their world had turned upside down the previous evening. She's remarkable, Benjamin said finally. Olivia. The way she's handling all of this. She is, Layla agreed. Though I'm not entirely surprised. She was always the most resilient of our friend group in college. Nothing kept her down for long. Do you think she'll go through with the wedding eventually? Once the shock wears off? Layla considered the question carefully. I don't know. That depends on a lot of factors, including how we handle the next few months. She glanced at him. And what you want, of course. Benjamin was quiet for a moment, his gaze fixed on the lake stretching before them. 24 hours ago, I thought I knew exactly what I wanted. Now everything's changed. Because of Theo. Because of Theo, he acknowledged. Because of you. Because of realizing that the past 9 years have been built on a misunderstanding that cost all of us so much. The implication hung in the air between them, unspoken but unmistakable. Before Layla could formulate a response, they spotted Theo among a group of children returning from their hike, his face alight with excitement as he clutched a small bag of what appeared to be his fossil finds. Mom! Dad, he called out, waving enthusiastically. Look what I found. The casual use of Dad, so new and yet delivered with such natural ease, stopped both adults in their tracks. Benjamin's expression transformed with wonder and barely contained emotion. He called me Dad, he said softly, as if afraid speaking too loudly might break the spell. He did, Layla confirmed, equally moved by the simple declaration of acceptance. Theo reached them, proudly displaying his collection of small fossils. The guide said this one is over 300 million years old, he explained, holding up a small stone with the distinct impression of a prehistoric fern. And this one might be part of a trilobite. That's incredible, Benjamin said, examining each specimen with genuine interest. Did you know that fossils like these help scientists understand how quantum systems might preserve information over time? Really? Theo's eyes widened behind his glasses. How? As father and son walked ahead, deep in conversation about the intersection of paleontology and quantum physics, Layla followed a few steps behind, watching them with a mixture of joy and wistfulness. They fit together so naturally, these two kindred spirits with their shared passion for understanding the universe's mysteries. What place would she have in this new configuration? Would she become merely the co-parent, the practical administrator of Theo's daily life, while Benjamin provided the intellectual stimulation and excitement? Or could they find a way to balance their roles, to complement rather than compete with each other in raising their remarkable son? The questions had no immediate answers. But watching Theo's animated gestures as he explained something to his newfound father, Layla knew one thing with absolute certainty: whatever complexities lay ahead, seeing her son this happy made every difficult conversation worth it. The remainder of the day passed in a whirlwind of activity. Olivia's celebration of friendship required nearly as much preparation as a wedding would have. Guests needed to be informed of the change in plans, the ceremony needed to be modified, and 1,000 small details required attention. Layla found herself unexpectedly involved in the preparations when Olivia called asking for her help with some last-minute design adjustments to the pavilion. Working together to transform the wedding setup into something more appropriate for the revised event, they fell into a rhythm reminiscent of their college days, when they pulled all-nighters to complete design projects. "You still have an excellent eye for balance," Olivia commented as Layla rearranged a floral display. "You could have been a successful event designer if you'd wanted." "Interior design suits me better," Layla replied. "More permanent, less stressful, and the hours are more compatible with raising a child alone." Olivia's hand stilled on the table setting she was adjusting. "You won't be raising him alone anymore," she observed quietly. "No," Layla acknowledged, the reality of this fundamental change still sinking in. "I suppose I won't. Are you okay with that?" The question was surprisingly gentle, free of the accusation or bitterness Layla might have expected. "I'm adjusting to the idea," she admitted. "It's been just the two of us for so long." "Ben will be a good father," Olivia said, resuming her work. "It's one of the things that attracted me to him. How much he wanted a family, how seriously he took the idea of parenthood. He seems to be falling into the role naturally," Layla agreed. "Theo already adores him, and Ben clearly adores Theo." Olivia's smile held a touch of sadness. "I saw them together earlier, heads bent over some science project Ben improvised from materials in his suite. The resemblance is uncanny, not just physical, but in how their minds work. I noticed that too." They worked in companionable silence for a while, each lost in her own thoughts. Finally, Olivia spoke again, her voice carefully casual. "What happens after this weekend? Have you discussed it yet?" "Briefly," Layla replied. "Benjamin wants to be involved in Theo's life. Of course, we'll have to work out the logistics. We live on opposite coasts. He mentioned possibly opening a branch office near you," Olivia said. "To make co-parenting easier." This was news to Layla. "He didn't mention that to me." "I'm not surprised. He's still processing everything himself." Olivia straightened a row of votive candles with meticulous precision. "For what it's worth, I think he's trying to be respectful of your role as Theo's primary parent. He's aware that he's the newcomer in your son's life." "Our son," Layla corrected gently. "That's something I'm trying to adjust to as well, sharing Theo's parentage." Saying "our" instead of "my." Olivia nodded understanding. "And what about you and Ben? Beyond co-parenting, I mean." The directness of the question took Layla by surprise. "There is no me and Ben," she said quickly. "That was 9 years ago. We're different people now." are you? Olivia's gaze was penetrating. Because I've seen how you look at each other when you think no one's watching. There's history there, Layla. Unresolved history. Olivia. I'm not accusing you of anything, Olivia clarified, her tone softening. I'm just trying to understand the full picture before I make any permanent decisions about my own future. The honesty of the statement deserved an equally honest response. I don't know what I feel for Benjamin, Layla admitted. There's a connection there, yes. A shared history, a shared child. But that doesn't mean we're meant to be together now. And if you were? If those feelings are still there, or could be a gain. Layla met her friend's gaze directly. Then I would be honest about it, with myself, with Benjamin, and with you. But I wouldn't act on it while his commitment to you is still unresolved. I promise you that, Olivia. Something in Olivia's expression relaxed at this assurance. Thank you for that. And for your honesty. She picked up another centerpiece, moving it to a different table. You know, in some twisted way, this situation has reminded me of why we were such good friends in college. You always were unfailingly ethical, even when it would have been easier not to be. So were you, Layla pointed out. I still remember how you returned that expensive textbook you found in the library, even though you could barely afford your own copy. God, I'd forgotten about that. Olivia laughed, the sound genuine for the first time since the revelations of the previous night. The moral dilemmas of broke college students. Slightly different stakes than what we're facing now. Slightly, Layla acknowledged with a rueful smile. Whatever happens with Ben and me, with Ben and you, Olivia said more seriously, I hope we can find our way back to being friends, Layla. Real friends. I've missed that more than I realized. The simple sincerity of the statement touched Layla deeply. I'd like that too, she said softly. Very much. The evening's celebration of friendship was a testament to Olivia's skill at transforming potential disaster into something meaningful and beautiful. The lakeside pavilion glowed with hundreds of lanterns, the tables arranged in a circular pattern that encouraged conversation and connection rather than the traditional hierarchical layout of a wedding reception. In place of wedding vows, Olivia and Benjamin each gave brief speeches about the importance of honesty, adaptability, and facing life's unexpected challenges with grace, thinly veiled references to their current situation that nonetheless resonated with the assembled guests. If anyone thought the last-minute change of plans strange, they were too polite to comment directly, instead embracing the revised celebration with enthusiasm. Theo, dressed in a child-sized suit that Benjamin had somehow procured that afternoon, moved between his parents throughout the evening, clearly delighting in his new expanded family circle. Layla watched with a mixture of joy and wistfulness as he proudly introduced his father to other children at the event, his usual reserve transformed into excited animation. He seems to be adjusting remarkably well, a voice observed from beside her. Layla turned to find Dr. Robert Powell, Theo's pediatrician and an unexpected guest at the weekend's events. Dr. Powell, she said, surprised. I didn't realize you were here. Olivia invited me as a representative of the Metropolitan Fertility Foundation, he explained. I serve on their medical advisory board. Small world, isn't it? Increasingly so, Layla agreed with a rueful smile. And yes, Theo is adapting better than I could have hoped. He's always wanted to know his father. Children are often more resilient than we give them credit for, Dr. Powell noted, watching as Benjamin bent to listen intently to something Theo was explaining, especially when the adults in their lives prioritized their well-being over their own emotional complications. We're trying, Layla said. All of us. Olivia mentioned the possibility of enrolling Theo in our EDS research program, Dr. Powell continued. I think it could be tremendously beneficial for him. His symptoms have been concerning me for some time, but without a complete family medical history, diagnosis has been challenging. Benjamin is willing to undergo whatever testing is necessary, Layla assured him. He's completely committed to Theo's health. Excellent. And what about you, Layla? How are you handling all of this? The question, asked with genuine concern rather than mere curiosity, caught Layla off guard. She had been so focused on managing Theo's needs and navigating the complex dynamics with Benjamin and Olivia that she had barely considered her own emotional state. "I'm adapting," she said finally. "It's an adjustment, sharing Theo after so many years of being his only parent. But seeing how happy he is with Benjamin makes it easier. And your history with Mr. Hayes, that doesn't complicate matters." Layla gave him a sharp look. "Did Olivia discuss that with you?" "No," Dr. Powell assured her. "But I've been Theo's doctor since he was born. I've seen the resemblance. And I've heard you mention his father's name once or twice over the years." He smiled gently. "Doctor-patient confidentiality works both ways, Layla. Your secrets have always been safe with me." "Thank you for that," she said, touched by his discretion. "And yes, our history does complicate things, but we're both committed to putting Theo first." "A noble intention," Dr. Powell acknowledged. "Just remember that children are perceptive. They sense tension, unresolved feelings. Sometimes the best gift parents can give their children is honest closure to their own relationship, whatever form that closure takes." Before Layla could respond to this surprisingly insightful advice, Theo appeared at her side, his eyes bright with excitement behind his glasses. "Mom, Dad says he's taking me to the Kennedy Space Center next month. They have real space suits and moon rocks and everything." "Does he now?" Layla raised an eyebrow, looking past Theo to where Benjamin was approaching with an apologetic expression. "I should have discussed it with you first," Benjamin acknowledged. "Theo mentioned his interest in space exploration, and I got carried away with the possibilities." "I see," Layla said, amused despite herself at his evident enthusiasm. "Well, we'll have to check the school calendar before making any definite plans." "Of course," Benjamin agreed quickly. "Whatever works best for both of you." Dr. Powell excused himself tactfully, leaving the three of them, mother, father, son, standing together in a configuration that was both brand new and somehow deeply familiar. "They're about to start the dancing," Theo informed them importantly. "Ms. Frost said I should tell you both to come to the dance floor." "Did she now?" Layla exchanged a look with Benjamin, wondering what Olivia was planning. They followed Theo to the large wooden dance floor that had been constructed at the center of the pavilion. Soft lights twinkled overhead, and the live band was preparing to begin their first set. Olivia stood near the bandstand, resplendent in a silver gown that caught the light with every movement. "Ladies and gentlemen," she addressed the gathered guests, her voice clear and composed, "in place of the traditional first dance between bride and groom, I'd like to invite everyone to join us on the dance floor for a celebration of connections, old and new, expected and surprising." She gestured to where Layla, Benjamin, and Theo stood. "Sometimes life presents us with unexpected turns. But if we're brave enough to follow them, they can lead to something even more beautiful than what we had planned." With that surprisingly philosophical statement, she nodded to the band, who began playing a gentle waltz. Olivia descended from the bandstand and approached Benjamin, extending her hand in invitation. He took it with a questioning look, and she leaned close to whisper something in his ear that made his expression shift from confusion to understanding. As Benjamin and Olivia began to dance, other couples joined them on the floor. After a moment's hesitation, Layla knelt beside Theo. "Would you like to dance with your mom?" she asked with a smile. "I don't really know how," he admitted, looking uncertain. "That's okay. You can stand on my feet, and I'll show you the steps." As Layla guided Theo through a simplified waltz, she caught glimpses of Benjamin and Olivia in conversation as they danced. Whatever they were discussing seemed intense but not angry. Olivia's expression was thoughtful, Benjamin's earnest. After one circuit of the dance floor, Olivia guided Benjamin toward Layla and Theo. "May we cut in?" she asked with a smile that contained both sadness and genuine warmth. "I'd love a dance with this handsome young man, and I think these two might have some things to discuss." Before Layla could process what was happening, Olivia had taken Theo's hand and led him away, leaving her standing face to face with Benjamin. "May I?" he asked quietly, extending his hand. Layla hesitated only briefly before placing her hand in his. As they began to move together, she was struck by how familiar it felt, his hand at her waist, their steps naturally falling into sync. They had danced like this years ago, at charity galas and friends' weddings, before everything fell apart. "What did Olivia say to you?" she asked, keeping her voice low. "That she's going to Europe for a few months," Benjamin replied, his expression complex, "to think, to heal, to decide what she truly wants. And that while she's gone, she wants me to do the same." "And what do you want, Benjamin?" The question emerged before Layla could stop it. His amber eyes, so like Theo's, held her steadily. "I want to be a father to my son. I want to make up for the years I've missed." He hesitated. "Beyond that, I think we all need time, Layla. Time to process, to adjust, to figure out what this new reality means for each of us." It was a measured, thoughtful response, neither a declaration nor a dismissal. And in that moment, Layla realized it was exactly what she needed to hear. Not promises, not regrets, but an acknowledgement that they were all navigating uncharted waters, and that rushing forward without careful consideration would only lead to more pain and confusion. "I agree," she said simply. "Time is what we all need." They continued dancing in companionable silence, each lost in their own thoughts, yet connected by the gentle rhythm of the music and the shared knowledge that whatever the future held, their lives were now irrevocably intertwined through the bright-eyed boy currently being taught an elaborate twirl by Olivia across the dance floor. The next morning dawned clear and bright, the lake a perfect mirror of the blue sky above. Most of the wedding guests had departed the previous evening or early that morning, leaving the resort peaceful and relatively empty. Layla stood on the deck of their cabin, coffee in hand, watching Theo and Benjamin at the end of the dock. They had risen early to set up Theo's telescope for one last observation session before the drive home. Even from a distance, their connection was evident in their matching postures, the animated gestures as they discussed whatever celestial object had captured their attention. The sound of footsteps on the deck announced Olivia's arrival. She looked fresh and composed in a simple sundress, her engagement ring notably absent from her left hand. "Morning," she said, joining Layla at the railing. "They're quite the pair, aren't they?" "They are," Layla agreed, offering her a cup of coffee from the carafe she'd prepared. "How are you doing?" "Really?" Olivia accepted the coffee with a grateful nod. "Surprisingly okay, all things considered. There's a certain relief in postponing the wedding. Actually, I think part of me knew we were moving too fast, but I got caught up in the romance of it all." "What happens now?" Layla asked. "Benjamin mentioned you're going to Europe." "Yes, for 3 months at least. I have clients in Paris and Milan who've been asking me to consult on projects for ages. It seems like the perfect time to accept." Olivia sipped her coffee thoughtfully. "Distance will be good for all of us, I think. Give everyone space to adjust to this new reality." "And when you return?" "That depends on a lot of things," Olivia said with a small shrug. "On what I discover about myself while I'm away. On what Ben discovers about himself while I'm gone. On whether there's still a foundation for us to build on." She turned to face Layla directly. "And it depends on you and Ben, too. On whether there's something still there that needs to be explored." "Olivia." "I'm not accusing you of anything," Olivia assured her quickly. "But I'm not blind either. There's a connection between you that goes beyond just being Theo's parents. Maybe it's just the echo of your past relationship, or maybe it's something more. Either way, I'd rather know the truth than live with uncertainty." Her honesty deserved an equally honest response. "I don't know what's between Benjamin and me anymore," Layla admitted. 9 years is a long time. We're different people now. "But some things don't change," Olivia observed, her gaze returning to the pair on the dock. Some connections endure, even when we think they're lost forever. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, watching as Theo pointed excitedly at something visible through the telescope, Benjamin bending to look. "Whatever happens," Olivia said finally, "I want you to know that I don't blame you for any of this, Layla. Not for the past misunderstandings. Not for keeping Theo's existence secret. Not for the complicated feelings that might still exist between you and Ben. Life is messy. Hearts are messier still." The simple absolution, offered without reservation, moved Layla deeply. "Thank you," she said softly. "That means more than I can express. Just promise me one thing. Anything. If you and Ben do find your way back to each other, make sure it's because you truly want a future together, not just because of your shared past or because of Theo." Olivia's expression was earnest. "You both deserve genuine happiness, not just a convenient arrangement." "I promise," Layla assured her. "And Olivia, I hope you find happiness too, whatever form it takes. You deserve that as much as anyone." Olivia smiled, a genuine expression that reached her eyes. "I think I will. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm making choices for myself, not just following expectations or settling for what seems available." As they stood together watching the father and son on the dock, Layla was struck by the strange circular nature of life, how endings could become beginnings, how loss could lead to unexpected gains, how the secrets we keep to protect ourselves might ultimately need to be revealed for true healing to occur. The weekend had begun with an invitation to witness a friend's wedding. Instead, it had become the catalyst for unraveling 9 years of misunderstandings and creating new possibilities none of them could have anticipated. Whether those possibilities would lead to renewed romance, strengthened friendship, or simply a more honest co-parenting arrangement remained to be seen. But watching Theo's animated face as he shared his passion for the stars with the father he'd only just discovered, Layla knew one thing with absolute certainty: whatever complications lay ahead for the adults in this unusual triangle, they had given her son an immeasurable gift, the knowledge that he was wanted, valued, and loved not just by one parent, but by a circle of adults committed to his well-being. And in the end, wasn't that the most important outcome of all? 6 weeks later, their lives had begun to find a new rhythm. Benjamin had opened a satellite office of Hayes Innovations in Layla's city, allowing him to spend significant time with Theo while still managing his company. Layla had adjusted her interior design schedule to accommodate co-parenting, finding unexpected freedom in sharing the responsibilities she had carried alone for so long. Theo had blossomed under his father's influence, his natural gifts for mathematics and science flourishing with Benjamin's guidance, while his warmth and creativity, qualities Layla had nurtured, continued to define his character. The Metropolitan Fertility Foundation's EDS study had confirmed what they suspected: Theo had inherited a mild form of the disorder from Benjamin, who had never been formally diagnosed but had experienced similar joint issues throughout his life. With proper knowledge and care, both father and son were learning to manage the condition, turning a potential limitation into an opportunity for deeper connection. On a crisp autumn afternoon, Layla waited outside Theo's school, watching children stream through the doors at dismissal. Her phone buzzed with a text from Benjamin. "Running late from meeting. Be there in 15. Sorry." She texted back a quick acknowledgement, not surprised by the delay. Benjamin's efforts to balance his role as CEO with his new responsibilities as a father weren't always seamless, but his commitment never wavered. Even when business demanded his attention, he made sure Theo knew he was a priority, often bringing work home rather than missing dinner or their now sacred weekend adventures. When Theo emerged from school, his face lit up at the sight of her. But as he approached, Layla immediately noticed something was wrong. He was moving stiffly, his normally boundless energy subdued. "What's wrong, sweetheart?" she asked as he reached her, concern sharpening her voice. "My shoulders hurt," he admitted, wincing as he shrugged off his backpack. "And my knees. I think it's getting worse." A flare-up of his EDS symptoms. Dr. Powell had warned them this might happen, especially during growth spurts or changes in weather. Still, seeing her son in pain sent a shot of helplessness through Layla's heart. "Let's get you home," she said gently, taking his backpack. "Your dad is meeting us there. We'll get you comfortable, and I'll call Dr. Powell." By the time they arrived home, Theo's discomfort had increased. His hands were trembling slightly, another symptom they'd learned to recognize, and his face was pale beneath his freckles. Layla helped him to the couch, arranging pillows to support his aching joints, her mind racing with concern. "I'll get your medication," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The anti-inflammatory drugs Dr. Powell had prescribed helped during these episodes, but they took time to work. As she was measuring the liquid medicine, the front door opened and Benjamin rushed in, his expression instantly shifting from harried executive to concerned father as he took in the scene. "What's happening?" he asked, moving immediately to Theo's side. "EDS flare-up," Layla explained, bringing the medicine. "It came on at school." Benjamin's face tightened with worry and something else, a flash of guilt that Layla recognized all too well. The genetic nature of Theo's condition meant Benjamin carried the unconscious burden of having passed it to his son. "Hey, buddy," he said softly, sitting carefully beside Theo. "Bad day, huh?" Theo nodded, taking the medicine Layla offered without protest, a sign of how much he was hurting. "It feels like someone's pulling all my joints apart," he said, his voice small. "I know exactly what you mean," Benjamin said, and Layla realized with a jolt that of course he did. He had lived with the same condition, undiagnosed, for his entire life. "Want to know what helped me when I was your age?" Theo looked up, interest flickering through his pain. "What?" "This might sound strange, but visualization really works. Close your eyes." Theo obeyed, always trusting of his father's scientific mind. "Imagine your joints are like the gears in a clock," Benjamin continued, his voice taking on the gentle cadence of a storyteller. "Right now, they feel like they're grinding against each other. But imagine them being slowly coated in smooth, golden oil. Each gear starts moving more easily. The friction disappears. The pain begins to fade." As he spoke, Benjamin's hand moved to Theo's shoulder, applying gentle pressure in exactly the right spot. Layla watched in amazement as Theo's tension visibly began to ease, his breathing becoming more regular. "The golden oil reaches your shoulders now," Benjamin continued. "Down your arms to your elbows, your wrists, your fingers. Each joint relaxes, becoming flexible but strong." The visualization continued for several minutes, Benjamin guiding Theo through each part of his body while demonstrating subtle movements and pressure points that seemed to bring immediate relief. By the time he finished, Theo was breathing normally, the worst of the pain apparently subsided. "How did you know how to do that?" Layla asked softly as Theo dozed, the medication and relaxation technique having done their work. "My grandmother taught me," Benjamin replied, his voice equally quiet. "She had the same symptoms, though no one called it EDS back then. The doctors just said she was double-jointed or had growing pains. But she developed these coping techniques and passed them down to me. I always thought everyone felt this way sometimes. It wasn't until the genetic counselor interviewed me about my family history that I realized what we were experiencing had a name." Layla reached out impulsively, covering his hand with hers. "Thank you for being here. For knowing what to do when I didn't. You've been doing this alone for 8 years, Benjamin said, his amber eyes serious. "You've done an amazing job. But now neither of you has to face this alone anymore." The simple declaration, so heartfelt, so free of the complications that still hovered around their personal relationship, touched something deep within Layla. In that moment, she glimpsed what they could be together as parents, complementary, supportive, each bringing different strengths to help their son navigate the world. "Mom? Dad?" Theo's drowsy voice interrupted her thoughts. "I'm hungry." Layla and Benjamin exchanged a glance of shared amusement and relief. If Theo was hungry, he was definitely feeling better. "How about I make dinner tonight?" Benjamin offered. "My famous pasta carbonara." "You cook?" Layla couldn't hide her surprise. The Benjamin she'd known 9 years ago had survived primarily on takeout and frozen meals. "I've acquired a few skills," he said with a small smile. "Being a bachelor billionaire doesn't mean you can't learn your way around a kitchen. Plus, Italian food is one of Theo's favorites, right, buddy?" "Right," Theo agreed, struggling to sit up. "And can we watch a movie after? The one about black holes you told me about? Interstellar?" Benjamin raised an eyebrow at Layla. "It might be a bit advanced." "He can handle it," Layla said, surprising herself with how easily she deferred to Benjamin's judgment on this. "If you think he's ready for it conceptually, I'm fine with it. Just be prepared for 1,000 questions afterward." "Questions are good," Benjamin grinned. "Questions mean his mind is working." As Benjamin moved to the kitchen and began assembling ingredients with unexpected competence, Layla helped Theo to a more comfortable position. The easy domesticity of the moment, Benjamin cooking, Theo recovering on the couch, Layla moving between them, felt both strange and oddly right, as if they were rehearsing for a future that none of them had planned but that might somehow fit them all. Later that evening, after Theo had fallen asleep halfway through the movie, exhausted from his painful episode but content in the security of having both parents present, Layla and Benjamin sat in the quiet living room, glasses of wine in hand. "Has Olivia been in touch?" Layla asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Benjamin nodded. "She emails regularly. She seems to be finding her stride in Paris. Her design work is getting a lot of attention. And what about the two of you? Have you decided?" "We've agreed to reassess when she returns," he said. "But honestly, we both know the relationship has fundamentally changed. Even if we could move past the shock of discovering Theo, there's still the question of what we each truly want from life." "And what do you want, Benjamin?" Layla asked, echoing the question she'd posed on the dance floor weeks ago. This time, his answer came more readily. "I want to be a good father to Theo. I want to build something that matters beyond my company, a legacy more meaningful than algorithms and profit margins." He paused, swirling the wine in his glass. "I want to stop making decisions based on what I think I should want and start building a life that actually brings me joy." The raw honesty of his response resonated with Layla. She had been on a similar journey since Theo's birth, learning to prioritize genuine happiness over external expectations. "And does being here, like this, bring you joy?" she asked softly. Benjamin looked around the modest living room with its comfortable furnishings, family photos, and the telescope they'd set up by the window, then back to Layla. "Yes," he said simply. "More than I expected. More than I probably deserve." "Don't say that," Layla said sharply. "You didn't know about Theo. That wasn't your fault. I know. But I'm still trying to forgive myself for not finding you, for not pushing harder to understand what happened between us." His gaze was direct, unflinching. 9 years is a long time, Layla. I've changed. You've changed. But being here, with you and Theo, it feels like coming home to a place I didn't realize I was missing. The quiet confession hung in the air between them, neither an explicit declaration of renewed feelings nor a dismissal of what they had once meant to each other. It was something more nuanced, an acknowledgement of connection that transcended their complicated past. "We should take our own advice," Layla said after a moment. "Give ourselves time. Focus on being good parents to Theo. See where that leads us." Wise as always, Benjamin smiled, raising his glass in a small toast. "To time. And to second chances, whatever form they take." "To second chances," Layla echoed, the gentle clink of their glasses sealing an unspoken agreement to move forward carefully, honestly, with Theo's well-being at the center of whatever future they might build, separately or together. 6 months later, Layla stood in her kitchen preparing dinner while Theo sat at the counter working on his science fair project, a sophisticated model demonstrating the principles of quantum encryption, inspired by his father's work. "Do you think Dad will make it back in time to see the final presentation?" Theo asked, carefully connecting wires in the display. He promised he'd try. His text this morning said his flight should land by noon tomorrow, Layla replied, checking the casserole in the oven. Barring any delays, he'll be there with plenty of time to spare. Good, Theo said with satisfaction. I want to show him how I implemented his suggestions about the visual demonstration. Layla smiled at her son's obvious excitement. The past 6 months had seen remarkable changes in their lives, all revolving around the new relationship between father and son. Benjamin had indeed opened a West Coast office of his company, allowing him to spend at least 1 week each month in the same city as Theo. Between those visits, they maintained daily video calls, collaborating on science projects, discussing books they were both reading, and building the bond that circumstances had denied them for 8 years. The doorbell rang, interrupting her thoughts. That must be your father now, she said, checking her watch with surprise. He's a day early. Yes. Theo jumped off his stool and raced to the door, throwing it open with enthusiasm. Dad, you're early. Come see what I did with the encryption model. But it wasn't Benjamin who stood on their doorstep. Instead, Olivia waited there, looking tanned and relaxed in casual travel clothes, a hesitant smile on her face. Olivia! Theo exclaimed, recovering quickly from his surprise. You're back from Europe. I am, she confirmed, accepting his spontaneous hug with obvious pleasure. Just got back yesterday. I hope it's okay that I stopped by without calling first. Of course, Layla assured her, coming to the door. We're always happy to see you. Come in. We were just about to have dinner. There's plenty if you'd like to join us. That would be lovely. Thank you. Olivia entered the house, looking around with appreciation. You've made some changes to the living room. The new color scheme is beautiful. Mom's been redecorating, Theo informed her importantly. She says creative expression is an important outlet for processing emotional transitions, whatever that means. Both women laughed at his matter-of-fact repetition of Layla's therapeutic explanation. It means that sometimes changing your surroundings helps you adjust to changes in your life, Layla explained, guiding them toward the kitchen. And we've certainly had plenty of those lately. So I've heard, Olivia said, accepting the glass of wine Layla offered. Ben mentioned you've been setting up a co-parenting arrangement that seems to be working well. It is, Layla confirmed. Theo spends 1 weekend a month in San Francisco with Benjamin, and Benjamin comes here for at least a week each month. Plus there are the video calls, the joint science projects, the medical appointments. Mom, can I show Ms. Frost my science fair project? Theo interrupted, practically vibrating with eagerness to display his work. Of course, sweetheart, but let's set the table first so dinner doesn't get cold. With Theo temporarily distracted by table-setting duties, Olivia moved closer to Layla at the kitchen counter. How are you really? She asked quietly. Ben said you've been amazing through all of this. But I wanted to hear it from you directly. I'm good, Layla said, and realized she meant it sincerely. Better than I expected, actually. Seeing Theo and Benjamin together, it's been healing in ways I didn't anticipate. And the two of you? You and Ben. The question was asked casually, but Layla could hear the underlying current of genuine concern. We're co-parents, she replied carefully. Friends, even. But that's all, Olivia. We've both been very careful about maintaining appropriate boundaries. Something in Olivia's expression relaxed at this assurance. That's probably wise, given how fresh everything still is. It is, Layla agreed. And speaking of Benjamin, how are things between you two? He mentioned you'd been in touch since you returned. We had dinner last night, Olivia confirmed. It was clarifying. 3 months apart gave us both perspective we needed. Before she could elaborate, Theo reappeared, having completed his table-setting task. Can I show Ms. Frost my project now? Go ahead, Layla laughed, recognizing that her son's patience had reached its limit. As Theo led Olivia to the dining table where his project was set up, launching into a detailed explanation of quantum principles that would have challenged most adults to follow. Layla took a moment to observe them together. Olivia listened with genuine interest, asking thoughtful questions that delighted Theo with their insight. She had changed during her European sojourn, not just the subtle physical changes of a tan and a new hairstyle, but something deeper, a certain groundedness and clarity that hadn't been there before. Whatever revelations or decisions she had reached during her time away, they seemed to have brought her peace. Dinner was a lively affair, with Theo dominating the conversation with tales of his latest school adventures and scientific discoveries. Olivia shared stories of the architectural wonders she'd visited in Europe, and Layla contributed updates on her latest design projects. It felt natural, comfortable, three people who had found their way to friendship despite the complicated circumstances that had brought them together. After Theo had been sent to get ready for bed, promising Olivia he would show her his telescope collection in the morning if she came back to visit, the two women settled in the living room with fresh glasses of wine. "He's thriving," Olivia observed. "Having Ben in his life has been good for him." "It has," Layla agreed. "And the medical treatments through the Foundation's program have made a huge difference too. His joint pain is significantly reduced, and the physical therapy is helping with his flexibility issues." "I'm so glad to hear that," Olivia's smile was genuine. "The Foundation's work means even more to me now that I've seen its impact on someone I care about." They sat in companionable silence for a moment, each lost in her own thoughts. Finally, Olivia spoke again, her voice thoughtful. "I've decided not to resume my engagement to Ben," she said simply. Though not entirely surprising, the statement still caused Layla to set down her wine glass carefully. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "Are you okay?" "I am. Better than okay, actually." Olivia tucked her legs beneath her on the sofa, getting comfortable. "It was my decision, Layla. One that came gradually during my time in Europe. May I ask why? If that's not too personal." "It's not too personal. Not between us." Olivia looked reflective rather than sad. "The simple truth is that Ben and I want different things. It took me some time away to realize it, but once I did, the decision was surprisingly easy." "Different things?" Layla asked, genuinely curious. "Ben wants a family. Not just any family, but his family, you, Theo, the connection you three share, even if he hasn't fully admitted it to himself yet." Olivia's expression was thoughtful rather than bitter. "And I want something else, something I'm still defining, but that definitely doesn't include trying to fit myself into a family unit where I'll always feel like an outsider." "Olivia, it's not. It's not a criticism, Layla. Just an observation." Olivia sipped her wine. "The three of you have something special, a bond that goes beyond just biological connection. I saw it that weekend at the lake, and I've seen it in how Ben talks about Theo, about you, about the life you're building together." "We're just co-parents," Layla protested weakly. "For now, perhaps," Olivia acknowledged. "But there's potential for more there, if you both choose to explore it." "And you're okay with that idea?" "I am," Olivia said with surprising certainty. "My time in Europe helped me realize that I've spent years trying to force my life to fit a very specific vision, prestigious career, successful husband, perfect family. But what if that's not actually what would make me happiest?" "What would make you happiest?" Layla asked gently. "I'm still figuring that out," Olivia admitted with a small laugh. "But I know it involves being true to myself rather than chasing some idealized version of success. And it involves reconnecting with the people who knew me before I got caught up in that chase. People like you." The simple sincerity of the statement touched Layla deeply. "I'd like that," she said softly. "Very much." "Me too." Olivia raised her glass in a small toast. "To new beginnings, for all of us." The following afternoon, Layla stood in the school gymnasium alongside dozens of other parents, watching as the judges made their way through the science fair exhibits. Theo stood proudly beside his quantum encryption display, explaining the complex principles with remarkable clarity to anyone who stopped to listen. "He's going to win," a familiar voice said from beside her. Layla turned to find Benjamin standing there, looking slightly rumpled from travel but beaming with pride as he watched their son. "That presentation is graduate-level work. He gets his brilliance from you. And his ability to explain complex ideas clearly," Layla said, smiling. "That's all you." Benjamin's gaze was warm as it rested on her. "Thank you for sending me his presentation notes in advance. It gave me time to prepare some thoughtful questions for the judges to consider." "You didn't," Layla gasped, half horrified, half amused. "I absolutely did," Benjamin confirmed unapologetically. "Nothing unethical, just a few suggestions about the real-world applications they might not have considered." "You're incorrigible. I prefer to think of it as being supportively involved in my son's education." Their easy banter was interrupted by Theo's excited wave from across the room. He'd spotted his father and was gesturing enthusiastically for him to come see the final version of the project. With an apologetic smile to Layla, Benjamin made his way through the crowd to join their son. Watching them together, Theo animated and confident as he demonstrated his project, Benjamin attentive and genuinely impressed, Layla felt a familiar warmth spreading through her chest. The past 6 months had brought so many changes, so many adjustments to her concept of family and parenthood. But seeing the joy her son found in his father's presence made every challenge worthwhile. "They're quite the pair, aren't they?" Layla turned to find Olivia beside her, having arrived for the science fair as promised. "They are," she agreed. "Sometimes it's hard to believe they've only known each other for 6 months. Some connections transcend time," Olivia observed. Speaking of which, she nodded toward where Benjamin was now making his way back toward them, having been temporarily displaced by the judges who were evaluating Theo's project. "Ladies," he greeted them, his smile including both Layla and Olivia with equal warmth. "Olivia, it's good to see you again. Twice in 2 days, we're on a roll." "I promised Theo I'd come see his project," Olivia explained. "And I never break promises to brilliant young scientists who might employ me to design their futuristic compounds someday." They all laughed, the tension that might have existed between former fiancés notably absent. Whatever conversation Benjamin and Olivia had shared the previous evening had clearly left them on good terms. "I should go congratulate the young genius," Olivia said, spotting the judges moving away from Theo's display. "From the impressed looks on their faces, I'd say he's a strong contender for first place." As she walked away, Benjamin turned to Layla with a questioning expression. "She seems different, more at peace somehow." Europe agreed with her, Layla said simply. "She mentioned you two had dinner last night." "We did." Benjamin's expression turned thoughtful. "She told me about her decision regarding our engagement, or rather, the end of it." "Are you okay?" Layla asked, studying his face for signs of distress. "I am," he said, and she believed him. "It was the right decision for both of us. We want different things from life, different futures." She said something similar. Benjamin nodded, his gaze returning to where Theo was now excitedly showing his project to Olivia. "The past 6 months have clarified a lot of things for me, about what truly matters, about where I want my life to go from here." Before he could elaborate, they were interrupted by a commotion at the front of the gymnasium. The principal was calling for attention, preparing to announce the science fair winners. Theo rushed over to join them, his face flushed with excitement. "They're announcing the winners," he exclaimed. "The head judge said my quantum explanation was the clearest she'd ever heard from someone my age." "That's wonderful, sweetheart," Layla said, squeezing his shoulder. "Whatever happens, we're incredibly proud of you." "Indeed we are," Benjamin agreed, ruffling his son's hair affectionately. As the principal began reading the list of honorable mentions, Layla felt Benjamin's hand lightly touch the small of her back, a gesture of shared anticipation, of united parenthood. The simple contact sent a ripple of awareness through her that she hadn't allowed herself to acknowledge in months. When Theo's name was announced as the first-place winner in the upper elementary division, his whoop of joy was matched by his parents' proud applause. As he raced to the front to accept his ribbon and certificate, Layla felt Benjamin lean close to her ear. "Have dinner with me tonight?" he asked quietly. "After Theo goes to bed. There's something I'd like to discuss with you." The question caught her by surprise, though perhaps it shouldn't have. For 6 months, they had maintained careful boundaries, focusing exclusively on co-parenting and establishing a stable routine for Theo. But the undercurrent of connection between them had remained, unacknowledged but unmistakable. "All right," she agreed, her heart beating a little faster. Dinner. As Theo returned, clutching his blue ribbon and beaming with pride, talking a mile a minute about the judge's comments, Layla caught Olivia's gaze across the room. Her friend gave her a knowing smile and a small nod of encouragement. Whatever happened next, whether the dinner with Benjamin led to a new chapter in their complicated history or simply a clearer understanding of their co-parenting relationship, Layla faced it with a sense of possibility rather than fear. The past 6 months had taught her that sometimes life's most painful detours could lead to unexpected destinations worth the journey. And sometimes the secrets we keep to protect ourselves are the very ones that need to be revealed for true healing to begin. If this story of second chances touched your heart, make sure to subscribe for more powerful stories about love, forgiveness, and the unexpected ways life brings people together. Because sometimes the most beautiful beginnings arise from what we think are endings. And the family we create isn't always the one we planned, but exactly the one we need.